Hi, welcome back to Ideas Box. I'm Jimmy, and in today's video we're going to take a look at this generator. The engine wasn't running, and once I got it running, the generator itself wasn't putting out any power. In the end, they were both fairly simple fixes, so anywho, let's get into it. I wasn't going to do too much of an extended video on this engine because, to be honest, it had been sitting for years, so I believe, and I just thought that it would be a case of some nice clean fuel and maybe a bit of air start to get it running and suck the clean fuel through, and it would be on a winner. But it wasn't quite that easy. Let me show you what I've had to do to it to get it running. It's taken me 3 goes pulling the carby off, and I think I've found an easier way to do it. So let me show you something. I had trouble getting you can take the air cleaner off, but I had trouble getting the carby off because these studs here need more travel than I've got about a 3/4 of an inch space in between there. So, and it'll take a lot more than that to get that off. So I undid the mounting bolts and pivoted the whole thing about, I don't know, 45 degrees or something, then this could slide off. But I think I've found an easier way, and just let me show you what I reckon that is. Now this is a pretty easy thing to check. You just need a container to drain the fuel in, a fairly thin flat blade screwdriver, and a 10mm spanner. So I'll put them over there out the way. So you drain the fuel first. The good thing with using a little container is if you drop the screw, which you invariably do, and there's not a lot of fuel in there, so there's just a little bit of fuel, but you will get a little bit more when you undo this screw, which holds the fuel bowl on. You get a little bit more, not much more. I probably should have gloves on, but I can't be bothered. So what I found was, inside the fuel bowl, I found a lot of gunk, a lot of like dried fuel that I've got most of that out, but I didn't get all of it out. I didn't do as thorough a job as I should have done. So I ended up blocking this emulsion tube twice, and the third time it cleared itself, okay? Now the flat blade screw goes up in there, and you just find just have a look when it drops in. There you go. So that's the main jet. So that's coming out. So you just watch you don't drop that. There's the main jet. Oh, and the emulsion tube came out as well. Quite often, the emulsion tube will hang up in there. It goes up in that way. It'll hang up, and then you just tap this here with a screwdriver. So what I checked on this was, this emulsion tube has got a series of little tiny holes. And you have to make sure they're all clear by just shining a torch through them. Obviously make sure it's clear that way. And you have to make sure the main jet is clear. Now these carburetors are a little bit different insofar as when you adjust the mixture, you don't adjust the fuel. The fuel is set. This is the jet. This is it. This is what you get. This is the fuel you get. That little screw there is for adjusting the air mixture, and I think that is all the way out at the moment. So you can adjust it. That's your air bypass screw. So your fuel ratio is set. You can only adjust the air that's going through. There's a little bypass line. I can't show you that without taking the carby right off. But to get this one running, what I did was I took this off and I checked all those holes. Now, that little hole there, it's hard to point to, that little hole there at the top, and then there's one on the other side, they were blocked, and I'll show you what I used to clear them through. I'll just put that jet just down there very carefully so I don't lose it. It's like a little orifice tip cleaner thing. I'm not sure the proper name of it, but what I do is, the way I use these is, I get the smallest one. So the smallest one is that one there. And you put that through the holes. Make sure they're nice and clear. Can you see that? Put that through the holes. Okay, then you try the next biggest one. Yep, now they are a little bit, they're not serrated, what would you call it? They've got a rough texture, so you've got to make sure that you don't go, okay, that one doesn't want to go through, but so I'd only go to the second one. You don't want to make those holes any larger because I imagine there's a lot of engineering and research has gone into the size of those holes. So you don't want to fuck that up. And then with the jet, you just do the same thing with the jet. Yep. I'm not sure how. Anyway, I know this one's clear. Here we go. It's starting to get snug now. Okay, so I can only get the third one through. So you don't force them through because you don't want to change the size of that jet. So I'll put that all back together now. And that's what I did with the Carby to get this engine running. And I'll show you what happened once I got it running and why there was no 240 output, 240 volt output from this generator. And I'll show you what I did to fix that. We've got nothing from the generator. No 240 volts. Got about 13 volts AC. So I'm not even sure what that means. But I'm going to pull that screw out there. I think that holds that in. So I'm going to pull that apart and see whether there's anything obvious. If there's nothing too obvious, then I might be out of my depth. Anyway, let's see how we go. So I'll take this screw here out. Don't know if that holds that cover down or not. Let's have a look. No, it's not that simple. Okay. Oh, hang on. That looks like that sits under there. If I take that screw there out, and that one there, and that one there. If that comes off, whoa, spiders galore. There's always spiders, isn't there? I'm not scared of spiders, but you do have to be careful of them. Okay, well that hasn't helped. How do I get this off? Oh yeah, so that's turning then. I don't know much about these things, so I'm going to have a bit of a thinkaroo. I don't really want to take these screws here out because I don't know. They hold this on, but do they hold this to this? You know what I'm thinking? I'm going to take this here off and have a look. I don't know how much I can see behind this. I'm hoping I can see a little bit. Enough to see how to get this cover off. Hang on, let me get a torch. Right, there's a capacitor up there. I wonder if that capacitor's failed. What does that capacitor do, you reckon? Don't know. I'll try changing it, see what that makes a difference, but how do you get this cover off? Do I? It's not immediately obvious. Oh, hang on. That's the tail of a pop of it. I think I'll take that out. Can't feel any screws. Nothing immediately obvious. I'll pull those two top ones out and we'll see what we've got. Right, see that gives me an indication of what that screw does. Jesus Christ. Alright then. Is this a good idea or not? I don't know. They're the same. Yes, they're the same. Do I have enough flex yet? No. Right, that's shifted then. How much more do I need to get that cover out? Oh, hang on. Now that I've done that, can I spring that cover out? Oh, I think I can. Hang on. See that there? Okay. Maybe the same over this side. Yep, here we go. Right, so that's just a normal GPIO, that's nothing special. In Australia they call it a GPIO, which is a general purpose outlet, so that's nothing special. But what have we got here? We do have a capacitor. See in there? See that capacitor? That one there, so I'll be super careful of that. I mean, what else can go wrong with it? I don't know. No idea. Take that screw there out. And that's what's holding that capacitor in place. Now you do have to be very careful of these. So what I will do is, I'll get myself a pair of insulated pliers. And I'll pull these connectors off. I might just mark them. I don't think 16 microfarad, 400 volts. So let me mark that. I don't think it matters which way it goes on. I really don't think it matters, but if I do that, if I put a line there and a line there we go. Now I know those two go together. So I undo that one, pull that one off, a little bit of a wiggle, come on off you bastard, there we go. And then this one here. Right, sit that like that. Just make sure I've got continuity. Is that a breaker or is that a reset switch? What do you reckon that is? Right, so, let's just see. Can I touch that one and that one? Right, so that breaker isn't tripped. Right, so let's see if we can test this capacitor, shall we? Right, so I'm just going to, I've got it set for cap, but I don't test capacitors very often, so I'm not sure what to do or what I'm looking for. Oh, hang on, the number's climbing. 2.9 watt, kilo ohms. Oh, hang on, mode. Diode, beep, auto. Oh, microfarads, here we go. Nothing. 2.36. Hang on, let's read the book. Shamefully, I'm going to read the book. Diode test, capacitance measurements, here we go. Set the small switch to your cap position NF and the small value will appear in the display, yep. Insert the black testament into negative, jack, We're positive. Touch the test leads to the capacitor to be tested. The display will indicate the proper decimal point value and symbol. Right, okay, so you can only assume that that should read 16 microfarads, is that right? Hang on, range. So what have I got there? What am I looking at? Hang on, I got an idea. This is a brand new motor capacitor. It is a 6 microfarad. So let's see what happens when we touch this one together. Oh, there we go, look at that, 6.2 microfarads. Okay. So, the capacitor's failed. Hang on, let me test that again. Here's another one, 20 microfarad. Wow, look at that, 19.08 microfarad. Plus or minus 5. Oh, hang on. Okay, so I just think the capacitor's died. Because, like, I don't test capacitors very often, but this is the first time I've done it. Look at that. Definitely nothing there. What if I try it around the other way? Maybe it's polarized. 0.12 nanofarads. What the f is a nanofarad? That's even smaller than a microfarad, isn't it? Microfarad. Yep, I'm convinced this capacitor's died. Alright, well, I'm going to get a new one of them and see if that fixes the issue. How good would that be? It needs a new spark plug too, so I'll get a new one of these and a new spark plug, and we'll see if that fixes the issue. Alright, so I've got this 20 microfarad capacitor which reads up okay, so I'm just going to connect that to the generator and see if it works, and if that is the issue then I'll order the correct one, but at least I can try this one for a bit. And I did read on the internet you're better to oversize the capacitor than undersize it. So I'm going to fit that and we'll see how that goes. Let's put that in there and try it, shall we? What could possibly go wrong? So I just need to turn that over. Connect this capacitor up. Don't think it makes any difference which way it goes. So just poke all this wiring down in there. Get that bracket across there. So, what do I do next? Now I bring these 3 wires out of here, because these are the 3 wires that I want to connect the GPIO. So I'll get them out of there. So, just got to get that to pop down. Oh, there we go. What's stopping that? What's stopping it? What's that? Oh, there we go. There's a wire cord under it. Okay, so if I put these 3 back, these 4 screws here back in, and you know what could get them all started before you do them up. Whoops. sort of bring it down a little bit. There we go. Okay, so the earth wire goes in there. I'll bring it back around this way a bit. Put that one in there. So the live wire goes in there. And the blue wire goes in there. Tuck all those wires in. Whack those two Phillips head screws back in there. Right, so now set my multimeter back to volts, mode AC, put that in there, like that. Right, start this thing up and see what happens. Choke on, fuel on. How about I turn the engine on? Look at that. It's all over the place. Dirty power though, very dirty power. I wouldn't like to run anything but maybe lights on it. It's all over the place. As you saw from the meter readings, it's a fairly low grade generator. I wouldn't like to run anything really complicated on it. Maybe some work lights, that's about it. But now that I've confirmed that that is the capacitor, I'll order a new capacitor, and I'll get a new spark plug too. And yeah, there we go. We got a generator to run some work lights. This is actually from the Country Fire Service Brigade that I'm a member of. So there you go. If your generator's not putting out any power, check to see if it's a capacitor. I had no idea what I was doing. Like I said, when I opened that up, I didn't even know there was a capacitor in there. I haven't had one of these apart before, but I'll put it all back together. And yeah, Bob's your uncle. Okay, thanks for watching. Make sure to click like and subscribe, and don't forget that notification bell too. Well, I reckon that's it for today, so bye for now.